Hey everyone, it's Emily from Life So Savory, and today I'm going to make a cute spring dress. At least that's my hope. So I'm going to use the baby doll dress / crop top pattern that I think last summer or the summer before, I can't remember, I shared with all of you. And I have actually used it so many times to create other sweatshirts or other cute tops for Rose. It's such a versatile top piece, and then you can add the skirts and etc. onto it. Well, I ended up making with it, I think it was a button down the back shirt with ruffles on the sleeves. And it was so cute. But I thought, how about today out of knit? We don't have to do anything down the back, buttons down the back. We can just make a really cute top. So we're going to take the crop top. We're going to add ruffles to the sleeves. We're going to add a skirt to it and hope that it's a really cute summer dress. So I think it's going to look awesome. I think it's going to be pretty fun and easy. And I like making ruffles. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to show you the pattern pieces, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm glad you're joining. Again, I'm Emily from Life So Savory, and today we're going to be sewing a ruffled dress. All right, so the kid's crop top looks like this. It's literally a one-piece pattern. You cut the front and the back. You just cut the front a little scoopier than the back neck, but otherwise it's a one-piece pattern. It's really easy to print. It's really easy to use. I'm cutting the straight 8 for Rose, which is a little bit wider than she needs, but this is a forgiving look, so it doesn't really matter if the fit is perfect, but that's what we're going to be using today. And then I've cut a front and a back, so I'll show you one of them. It just looks like this, has shoulders, has little underarm curves, very, very basic. Then I've cut a neckband, okay, need that for the neck. Then I've cut 2 arm sleeve ruffle pieces. So I've cut these kind of as long as I could from the scraps that I had. And these are going to be the ruffles on the sleeves. But actually right now, as I'm looking at this, I wonder if I should use, well, let me finish this. Okay, so I cut 2 arm sleeves, ruffles. Then I realized for the skirt, I was gonna have to use a different color fabric because this floral is like leftover from 2 other projects, and I didn't have enough to cut any kind of skirt. So I cut one with the fabric, which is 60 inches from this tri-blend t-shirt fabric, which I think goes pretty well with the pink. But I'm wondering if I would blend it more if I use the same pink fabric for the armbands. So I'm actually going to grab, I think I have a small piece of this pink right here, and I'm going to go ahead and cut arm ruffles of this pink. So I just think maybe it will tie the whole thing together. Considering I'm using 2 different fabrics, I usually don't want it to be like half and half. I kind of want to blend it in. And this fabric is okay for neck bands, but it's not the best, okay? So this pink is a tri-blend, which makes it very much like a traditional t-shirt fabric that you might buy in the store, which means that it is pretty stretchy one way, but not really stretchy up and down. And it works great for this. I wonder if this is going to be too ruffly for the sleeves. I'm going to cut 2. We're going to just go with it and see. It kind of, it also curls a little bit on the edge. I don't know how wide did I cut this? 2.5 inches. Okay. So we'll cut 1 more of those. And if it's too much together for the sleeves, we'll just trim it later. I'm not going to trim it right now. But I think maybe having this for the sleeve ruffle and the skirt will hopefully tie everything together a little bit. Okay, so let's take all of this over. This whole project will be sewed almost all on the serger. I'm not sure if I'll need the cover stitch at all because I'm not going to hem my ruffles. So we won't be hemming the arm or the bottom of the dress to keep it easy and light, and the knit looks fine without it. So we're going to move over and I'll switch the camera so you can see. The serger. And if I need to use the cover stitch, we'll go ahead and move it again. All right, but hopefully here you can see the serger. This is what I'll primarily be working on, and hopefully putting this together very quickly. So we have the front and the back, and I'm going to begin by sewing one shoulder seam together. So make sure you have found the shoulder seams. Match up one of the shoulders. I'm just going to put a couple clips on it. This pink floral or this white floral, whatever you want to call it, is double brushed poly. So it's very, very stretchy in all directions. And it actually works great for neck bands and is super soft. It's kind of that legging, classic legging fabric. And I think I did make leggings out of this when I first got this fabric. But like I said, this is a dress using up some scraps. It doesn't really matter which seam you sew first, left or right on the neck. If you have a preference, you can go ahead and sew one side or the other. But now we have an open neckline. Okay, so from other shoulder to other shoulder, we're going to sew on the neckband. And I like to just take my neckband and fold it in half. Just cut a 1.75 inch piece of fabric. Then fold it with wrong sides together. And we're going to stretch and sew it. So I like to get it started a little bit before I start stretching. And then you're going to stretch it about 10%. So that's the goal. If you're not comfortable just stretching and sewing it on like this, you can go ahead and measure the neckline. And then measure and cut a neckband 10% less of the width. And then pin it on before you sew it. Since I'm doing these open ones like this, something's not right. Oh, we broke a needle thread. That is what is not right. Okay. I was noticing it puckering up, and of course, we don't want a neck band. It's looking good, what I've started, but we want to be able to finish it. Just a second, let me turn my device here so I can see. Hi, Mary. Hi, Debbie. All right. Oh, sorry. I have a bread in the oven, so I'll be right back. 1 minute. Less than 1 minute. Okay, I had a needle thread break. I don't even know why. It got caught on itself or something. Or maybe it just didn't even break. Just got trapped. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, maybe they're all there. It was pulling tight. I didn't like it. I ended it. We're going to re-sew over a little bit of where I stopped to make sure that any threads that were tight or weird, we're re-sewing that part of the seam. And then we're going to continue stretching and sewing along the neckline. All right, so from there, I'm going to match the two sides of the neckband and the other shoulder seam, and we're going to sew that up to complete the neckline. If you want to top stitch with your cover stitch or zigzag on your sewing machine, I like to do it while the neck is still open. So maybe I'll do that now. This would be the one thing I actually probably want to use the cover stitch for. Hi, Emily, Nancy, Lynn. Nice to see you guys. Just tip this down a little bit more so you can see the cover stitch. Okay, so right next door, it has an off-white on it. We'll use that. I'm not gonna change that. So I like to do it again while the neckband is open in this long strip here. It makes it really easy to go ahead and stitch it. So I think my needles look threaded. I'm risking it. I'm not even doing a test piece. This will of course come back to bite me. I use the serger tails from the first seam to usually start to make sure it's pulling. Oh, yep, that looper is caught underneath. And then I always keep this clear foot on my cover stitch. It has a regular non-clear one, but I always like the clear because then I can see exactly where I'm stitching on my seam and trying to stitch evenly away from the connection of the neck and the top. And then you don't really want to pull the fabric, but you do want to make sure that you're not stitching over puckers or gathers in the fabric. So if it were to be needed to be stretched, you want to do that so that you do end up with a nice flat stitched neckline. Okay, so we'll see if it will focus on there. Can you see that the double stitching right there? It's very stretchy. That's awesome. And then here's what it looks like on the back. Stitched the seam of the neck down towards the top, and then it's just covered. It's really hard because it's all white back there, but it makes a really nice finished neckline. Okay, so back to the serger. Maybe I can just leave it like this. Then I guess if I need, although I don't think I will, but if I need to go back to the machine, but you can kind of see what I'm working on down here a little bit more too. All right, so I'm going to line up the neck and the shoulder. Throw a clip or two in. Okay, and stitch that second shoulder. From there, we're going to begin gathering the sleeve ruffles, which will be really fun. All right, so I'm sewing that second shoulder seam, keeping all the edges lined up, hopefully. All right, and now we have a finished neckband. I do want to grab my darning needle here, which is my sort of thick, big-eyed needle, and I'm going to slide it through the stitches where I started that second neckband, and then pull the tails through to finish that side of the neckband that we sewed. And actually on the band is a seam, but you finish the edge of it really nicely just with the darning needle. So if I turn this right side out, okay, the back is higher than the front, and we have a nice neck right there on the dress. Okay, so let's make some gathered ruffles. So I cut these long strips, and I'm going to gather on the serger, and we'll just kind of see how much of it looks good and how gathered it is, and then we'll probably trim this because it's a width of fabric, which means it's 60 inches, and I don't think we need to gather 60 inches of fabric for this sleeve opening, which is probably 12 inches. That would be a lot of gathers. So I'm going to change my differential feed up to 2. I'm going to change my stitch length to 4. And then because I want it extra gathered, I'm actually going to take my needles and tighten them down to 6. So if I really just want it gathered about a 2-to-1 ratio, I won't change the needles. I'll just change the settings on the side. But for this, we have a lot of fabric to gather. I'm going to tighten the needles and then it will gather it even more. So let's take a look and see how this looks. And I'm just sewing right on the edge of this ruffle piece. And I don't know if you can see in the back, but it's totally ruffling right up. I love how easy this is. And because we're not really trying to fit this to any particular size, right? We can make this as long or as short as we want. We can just keep going ahead and ruffling, trying to keep the fabric straight, not folded over. And when I think I have about enough to go on the edge of that sleeve, I'm going to stop. Which I think I already have. So let's sew off. And you can see I have a beautiful gathered, some folded pieces on the fabric. But I have a beautiful gathered ruffle that we can stick on the end of that sleeve. So I love how easy that is. And it looks amazing. Hi, Rosa. Okay, so we're going to gather the other ruffle as well. I left, I don't know, maybe a foot ungathered, and we'll just trim that off, but we'll do the same. So I'm sewing actually on the right side of the fabric up. Not that it really matters, but this will be the side that we see up on the end of the sleeve. So I kind of just want to check and see how it's looking. And if I can, look at that right side. If you have not gathered with your serger before, this is your inspiration to do it. It's so easy. And I love, love, love how even the gathers look. When I gather the skirt, I'm going to give you a few additional tips if you need to fit an exact size. Like this, we don't need to fit an exact size. Excuse me, 20-second delay while I take my bread out of the oven. This, we're very open-ended with our size because we know that the fabric is longer than we need. So I'm not worried about it fitting. When we do the skirt, I want the skirt to fit exactly the bottom of the dress. So I'll be a little bit more particular. Okay. I'm going to find one sleeve here. Okay. If I put this on my lap, you can't really see it. I'll lift it up in a minute. Then with right sides together, we're going to match the end of the ruffle with the end of the sleeve. And I'm going to pin it along there. So I don't want to stretch the sleeve. I don't want to stretch out the ruffle. I'm just matching the edge. My goodness, I think it's going to look so cute. Right sides together. Okay, so this is the wrong side. That's the right side of the fabric. It doesn't have a super distinct right and wrong side, but you can tell the grain in the fabric is a little bit different. So put the right side out. We have more than we need, which is fine. We'll just trim off the rest after we've sewed it. So there is this ruffle on the end of the sleeve. It will hit just above the elbow because the dolman sleeve kind of comes over the cap of your shoulder. And then the ruffle, however long you make it, would be that sort of sleeve. But we're not starting from up here. We're starting from down here where the dolman sleeve comes over. All right, now very important, put your sewing machine or your serger back, differential feed, stitch length, all of that. Change it back before you sew or you'll be sad. And of course, I've done it before. So definitely. Oh, yes, Mary, the house smells wonderful right now. So I'm actually baking 2 loaves because I'm delivering dinner to a friend tonight, and my family, almost always on Wednesday. Now summer is coming, so it won't be the same, but all winter long, Wednesdays we have a loaf of bread and I make some soup, different kind of soup. So I'm making for my friend tonight chicken noodle, because I don't know if they'll like what we're having, which is a Thai-inspired shrimp noodle soup, which my family loves. I don't even think it's a good one for bread, like Thai soup with bread. To me, those things don't go together. But the last time I made it and I didn't serve bread with it, my kids were really upset. So we're having bread with the Thai shrimp noodle soup, and what a gorgeous ruffle on there. You can see it's longer on this side, but I'm not going to cut it yet, because if I cut it, well, I guess the ruffles aren't going anywhere because I sewed them into the next seam. So we'll trim this. Okay, trim the extra fabric, not too much. And then we're going to do the same to the other sleeve. Okay, so here's the end of the sleeve right here. This is the top of the shoulder, that seam that we sewed. Is this too bright? Tell me what you think about the color here. Close the window shade a little bit. It's hard. I need to remember not to use white fabric with or any shade of white with live shows, because it just really is washed out, and I forget that every time. All right, so we're going to match up the end of the ruffle with the end of the sleeve and then pin it down. It's a straight edge. This is not a curved shoulder. It's literally a straight piece of fabric, so super easy. If you are starting sewing with knits, I would start with this crop top. One, it's adorable. And two, you don't even have to put any sleeves in. It just is, you have to hem the end of the sleeve or put a cuff or put a ruffle. And the bottom, or you can put a cuff or a ruffle. But you can learn how to put a neckband in. It's all straight seams. You don't have any sleeves. It's like the easiest t-shirt around. Plus it looks really, really cute. So that's my suggestion if you're looking to start sewing with knit fabric and you want to make something absolutely adorable. Okay, so here's the second sleeve. Take a look, okay? Looks gorgeous. And I think I'm really glad that I changed up to use the solid pink on the ruffles, because that's what I'm using for the skirt. I think it's really going to bring it together. I think if I was just using it for the skirt, it would look a little more disjointed. But there's the top of the dress coming together. So, so cute. All right, and I'm going to go ahead now and turn this right sides together, and we're going to sew from the bottom of the ruffle. It's really not a very long side seam, down around this little curved underarm, and that's it. Okay, so that's the side seam. So I'm just going to sew the two edges of the ruffle together. Make sure everything's lined up. And then go down the side seam, which is not very long. This is a crop length pattern. It's made to put a band on, so not like ultra crop. But of course, if you want to make it shirt length, which I totally have done, just extend it or put a longer, wider cuff. This one we're making a dress. I'm going to make another version of this for Rose and make it like a t-shirt, a top length. So I will just put a short ruffle on the bottom, maybe 6 inches to finish off the top. So it'd be this plus like a 6-inch ruffle, a 6-inch ruffle on the bottom to sort of finish it into a shirt length and not a dress length. With this one, we've cut about a 20-inch skirt, and we're going to pop that on there, and it's going to be so, so cute. All right, so sewing side seam number 2. Little curve on the underarm. Down to the bottom. We don't have to worry about finishing this bottom seam because that's going to be enclosed in the skirt. But the end of this ruffle here, because I'm not hemming the ruffle, I'm using my darning needle and I'm pulling the serger tail back through the serger seam. Maybe. Back through the serger seam so that it's completely finished and we have the edge of the ruffle with nothing. So let's see, let's focus. So there's the raw edge of the fabric. Okay, you can't just leave those serger tails. You also can't just cut them or they'll fray. So on the back, you can see I pulled it through the seam about 1 inch and it will stay. I've never had any problem with those coming out right there. Okay. This is looking so cute. Let's turn it right side out. Okay, so here's the top of our little dress that we're making, this ruffled sleeve dress. Pull out the ruffles. Oh my goodness, it's looking awesome. All right, so how cute are those going to be? They'll hang. So the shoulders are actually kind of where I'm pinching this. So you can see they'll hang down. Okay, it's not super short. Just it's nice and wide and loose fitting, goes over the head. And now we have the ruffles on the sleeves. All right, so we're going to do the skirt. And I have one with the fabric. You could, of course, make it full. You could make it tiered. A tiered skirt would look really cute. So many options, so many options. But I just have one piece. So the first thing I'm going to do is sew the side seam, which will actually be in the back. Okay, so we're just making we're sewing one seam to turn this into a circle. And then we'll gather it, and I'll give you a few more serger gathering tips. Because I'm going to do this one just slightly different, not really too much different. So the edges of this fabric like to roll. So I'm trying to unroll it, and then I'm actually taking a slightly wider seam than normal to cut off the roll, because I don't love dealing with that rolled fabric on the side. All right, now I'm not hemming this, so I really want it to come down to the bottom and line right up, which it does. But I'm just going to finish it with that needle, just like I was finishing those other ruffles. Okay, so I have the serger tail. If you were hemming the bottom of your skirt, you could absolutely not do this because you will just finish it as you go, as you turn up your hem. But because I'm leaving the bottom raw, we're just going to do it like we did the ruffles. And I actually put on the bottom of the dress this fabric that's curling. And I think it's actually kind of cute to use that curling as the bottom of the skirt. Okay, so the bottom of the skirt is going to curl up a little bit. You can see that. I think it's going to be just fine and look okay. All right, so we're going to gather this. And I'm guessing this time it's closer, like if I fold this in half, this is closer to the bottom of the top. Yeah, it's a little bit bigger. It's all stretchy, so we have some give. So we're going to gather the top, but this time I'm not going to change the needles. So remember, last time I cranked those needles up to 6, which tightened the needle tension, which increased the gathers. So this time I'm only going to turn my differential feed up to 2 and my stitch length up to 4. And then I'm going to gather this. And it will gather it, but it's going to be less gathered. So I also want to be able to adjust this because I want to be able to adjust it to fit the top and go around the circumference of the bottom of the wear. That I need to be able to make it smaller or bigger should I need. So I like to have some extra thread that I can let out the gathers. Taking them in is easy, and I'll show you. But letting them out, I'm going to chain off a few inches so that should I need to let some gathers out, I have some threads to slide the gathers along and not lose all those gathers. So I'm going to go all the way around the top of this skirt piece. Like, oh, there it comes. It was stuck back there on something. All right, it's wanting to curl, so I have to uncurl it as I sew. I sewed for so long with like double brush poly and rib knit and fabrics that don't curl. When I go back to some of these fabrics that do curl, I love the feel of them. I love, love, love this tri-blend fabric, but I do not love curling fabric. It's so annoying, especially when I haven't used it for a while and I'm not used to it. So we're going to go all the way around the circle, and then we're going to see how it lines up. And then I'll show you how we can easily adjust these gathers, even though we sewed them on the serger. Okay, so I started on one side of the back seam. Here's my long tail that I chained off that I can use if I need to. We're going to do the same on the back side. I'm chaining off so that I have a long, like 6 inches, should I need, on both sides. Here is the gathered skirt. Okay, so you can see not as gathered as we did those ruffles, but still cute. Ooh, Mary, a lettuce hem. Very cute idea for the bottom. It would look adorable. I maybe will do that on the version that I make that's just a little top. That's like a 6-inch ruffle, not a long, long ruffle. I think that'd be adorable. Okay, so I'm going to move over here. I think you can still somewhat see what I'm doing. And we're going to check the width of this skirt versus the width of my top and see if we need to tighten or loosen it up. So I can see, well, it actually, I think looks pretty good. If you need to loosen it, you literally can just start pulling the gathers off of the tail, okay, and then rearrange them. If you want to tighten the gathers, you actually just grab the needle threads, the 2 of them, and then pull it like you would gathered. I wouldn't do this if I was gathering up like 50 inches, but if you need just 2 inches or 3 inches smaller, it's quite easy to just unpick those needle threads and then slide the gathers along like you would in traditional gathering. So that's how I sort of adjust the bottom of this. But I think this is actually ready to go. So I want to make sure, where's that seam? I have the right sides together. Okay, so this is the right side out. And I'm actually going to turn it so the right side is in. Okay, and then we're going to find the back of this dress to line up on that back seam. Okay, so we're going to tuck the top inside the skirt, and I'm going to put a clip here on the back seam of the skirt. And then we're going to work around in both directions. We don't have side seams to line up. I don't have a lot of frames of reference. I could quarter it out and do that, but I don't want to do that while you guys are watching. So I'm just going to go a couple clips on the left side, couple clips on the right side, so that when I get around to the front, I've worked my way around evenly. And if I have some mess to figure out, at least it's even on both sides, hopefully. Okay, that's what I'm going for. You can add, if you want, clear elastic in this seam. to stabilize the waist a bit more if you want. You can just sew it. The serger they will have two serger seams, the gathering seam and the seam we're going to sew these together. We're going to be real close here on lining this up perfectly. I'm glad I'm working from side to side so I can ease in. There's just a tiny bit extra, but we're just going to ease it in and get it pinned in. So there is the skirt pinned right side to the top, and we're going to go ahead and sew that now. I want to make sure I turn my stitches back. Okay, regular settings, not gathering. I'm going to start sewing in the back and sew these two layers together. Hopefully without getting anything weird in the way or sewing something I shouldn't. I'll probably be doing quite a bit of checking because I want to make sure I'm not sewing any ruffles or the dress or anything strange. When I'm sewing this, I probably will take a maybe 3/8 to 5/8 inch seam allowance, just to make sure that I'm cutting off the gathering stitches and to make sure that I'm securely sewing the two layers together. I'm normally a thinner seam allowance, but I would say sewing the waist like this is one place where I usually take a healthier seam allowance, unless instructed differently, of course, on a pattern to knot. But it just seems to make it easier if I don't scrimp on the seam allowance here. All right, so we're working our way around the top. I'm super excited to reveal this to you. This is literally the last step. So easy. Like I said, this crop top I think is a perfect starter knit piece. If you're looking to start sewing knit, it's easy to make into a dress. It makes an adorable shirt. I've used it to make sweatshirts before with dolman sleeves. So many things I've used this pattern for. Super versatile. And now here's another option with the ruffled sleeves. All right, so we're going to turn this right side out and get a look at our adorable dress. Oh my goodness. So cute. So easy. Maybe giving me a little moo-moo vibes, but I love it. How adorable is that? All right, let me turn you here. Let's redo this. Okay. So cute, right? This one's going to be pretty long. So taking a crop top, it's going to be a long flowing dress. Cute, easy. Love, love, love the super gathered sleeves. I have a few threads to clip, but otherwise this dress, quick and easy, and took me about 30 minutes to sew, even with talking to you guys through the whole thing. So easy. There's the back. Looks exactly the same as the front. The only difference is the neck scoops a little lower on the front than it does on the back. But otherwise, perfect, simple, and a fun dress with the gathered sleeves. So I hope you're inspired to use this pattern to make something fun or to get started with sewing with knits if you haven't tried it already. All right, I'll see you next week for another fun sewing project. I think I'm going to try and sew something for myself next week, or maybe we'll make something altogether different, like a bag or accessory or something that is not related to clothing. Who knows? It's going to be fun. It'll be amazing. And I'll see you next week. Bye.